Hello, guys. Welcome to the Growth Agenda with Jenny. This is a program that is built to inspire and encourage individual growth. We share personal experiences. We learn about the men and women who have gone ahead of us. Either they've succeeded or failed, and the factors that have surrounded their stories. We also learn about the subject of success itself. The last book we reviewed was The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, where we learned a lot about living purposefully, about nurturing the mind, managing time, valuing relationships, and a lot more other things that we learned. Today I come with a book. It's a lovely book called Outwitting the Devil. It's written by Napoleon Hill. Now, Hill was, here authors never die, an American self-help writer. He was born in 1883 and died in November of 1970 at 87. Now, how he gets into this whole thing of self-help is he conceived an idea that he should look for factors that influence success by interviewing the successful men and women of the time of his age, so that he then publishes that in magazines and earns a living. So in his search for that information, he meets Andrew Carnegie. Now, if you know a bit about the history of the American economy, you might know that Andrew Carnegie is one of the guys who contributed greatly to the building of that economy, especially in the steel industry. He lies in the same category as the Henry Fords, the John D. Rockefellers, the Theodore Roosevelts. If you know a bit about those guys, he's at that scale. So he meets this young man. Carnegie meets this young man who introduces his idea to him. I'm here, sir, to interview you. I would like to know how you have made it. My idea is to compile these and spread them so that people know how to come by success. So Carnegie says, oh, that's a great idea, but you could make yourself a bit more useful than that. The world is in dire need of a clear, proper, rich philosophy of success, because this is a huge gap in the education system, which gives people knowledge but not how to apply it. So we have people who can reason, who can write very beautiful essays, but they don't know how to transform those into rich life, sort of making education very close to irrelevant or inadequate. So I think Hill gets interested in the idea, but he quickly gets a warning that this kind of thing is not one that you think you might benefit from yourself, because it takes a lot of time, and by the time people appreciate it, you probably will have died. So maybe your children or the children of your children will reap a lot more from your work than you will yourself. But he says it's a very, very worthwhile goal and encourages him to pursue it. And he also tells him that in his own experience, in Carnegie's experience, the force behind success or failure was something that he called the other self. It was something that Napoleon Hill had not really heard of before, the other self. And he said the other self is an entity that resides inside of every man, but it only manifests when this man is facing some kind of emergency where he is forced to think and act differently to save himself, either from death or from some catastrophic experience. And so Carnegie has this theoretical knowledge about the other self, but has not really encountered it. But he sets off to begin the search, and Carnegie is kind enough to introduce him to the other successful guys. So it is Napoleon Hill beginning the research, backed by Carnegie. So he manages to interview he says over 5,000 successful individuals learning from their experiences and documenting his findings. And then over 25,000 individuals termed as failures, and also learning from their experiences what is it that they might have done wrong that caused things to go as sour as they did. So after some point, having listed all the causes of failure and all the causes of success, Hill convinces himself that he had finished compiling the principles of success, the philosophy of personal success. But far from it, the work had just begun. But at this point, he did not know. So he gets lured into business. I mean, what else could he do after completing the philosophy? So he thought. He gets lured into business and gets into one or two, advertising, teaching. But even if he was performing really well, he was not happy. So he kept getting into those businesses and coming out. And to his partners, it was kind of a crazy move every now and again. But it was because of the void within him. And he knew that it was because he was not pursuing the philosophy. So it was sort of vaguely in his mind that there is still more work to do on this philosophy. But for a spell, he suffered indecision and was not sure where to put his next step. So being the kind of guy that believed that we were in charge of our journeys, he seeks to clear his mind. So he takes a walk. And it was while there that he came to experience the interaction with the other self that Carnegie had told him about for the first time. So this other self shows up and instructs him. He says it was a thought, but that came, or maybe it was an instruction or a command that came in the form of a thought. And however much would have loved to disregard it or to write it off as his own thought, it was very clear that it was not his thought. So the instruction was, go back home, sit at your typewriter, and start putting together in a manuscript all the information that you have gathered so that you can complete the philosophy. So he gets home, sits on the typewriter, but has doubt. You know how it is. You perceive an idea, but again you start questioning it. And he had started getting those feelings. But it came back and said, you see, you are looking for happiness. You are trying to run away from this, your assignment, from your mission by doing businesses. But you're not going to be happy because you can only find happiness when you help others to get it. So sit and complete this philosophy and do not stop until it is finished and published. So he focuses, even if he kept getting these doubts every now and again, the impulse to obey was stronger than the spirit of doubt. So he sits down and finishes the philosophy and documents it, and it's ready for publishing. And that was around 1924. And at this time, Carnegie had already died, the guy who set him off his journey. So feeling that, okay, finally I have finished this philosophy, he seeks to go back into business. And so he buys a school. He buys it in Cleveland, in Ohio, and is ready to invest his energy into it. And indeed he does. Again, he gets into partnership with his other business associates, and they begin the business, and it starts doing really well. And apparently it did extraordinarily well that it made news. But hey, Hill was not happy until he got to a point where he pulled out of the business and kept the part of lecturing on the philosophy of success, both in this school and elsewhere. And it was during one of such lectures that he met this one gentleman called Donald Ring Mellett, who happened to be a news editor for the Daily News. Now, Donald got really, really interested in the philosophy of success, and struck an agreement with Napoleon Hill to publish it. Make articles and let's publish them. And an agreement was signed. Unfortunately for Hill, this came at the time when this news editor had just unveiled a crime that involved bribery, incriminating the police of the area. Of course, that made huge news. It was all over the papers. If it were today, we would be saying it all over all social media channels. And so because of that, he suspected, of course the people do not know, but they suspect that Napoleon Hill has had something to do with this discovery and opening the suspects or the criminals up to, the law. So Donald Ring Millet is murdered, and the murderers want to come after Napoleon Hill because in their minds, this man must have been behind. He must have worked with Millet to cause this uncovering of their thing. How Hill survives is by some anonymous scholar who says, listen, is this Napoleon Hill? You have 1 hour to get out of this town, or else you are dead meat. So Napoleon hits and gets out of the city and goes to take refuge in with his relatives in West Virginia. When he gets there, he chooses to go to the basement and is really a lot like a prisoner. Even when he hears that his assailants had been imprisoned for life, his life gets into this, it just hits the bottom with fear, with indecision, with humiliation, with poverty. I mean, he was in a state where people had to have mercy on him, his relatives. But also, how is it that the teacher of success was failing to pull himself out of this hole? So he had all those thoughts going round on his mind. How am I going to face the world again after having bragged about how everybody is the captain of their ship and we are in charge of our journeys and we are the masters of our souls? How will I explain to the world that I failed to be a master of my own soul? So he spent a full year in that situation. Fear, doubt, demotivation, very bad self-image, very low self-esteem, and poverty. Until after about a year, like I have said, he just woke up and said, I'm going to come to the end of this. I'm going to come to the end of this, and before the night goes, I am getting out of this house and I will not come back unless and until I get a solution to this problem. So he takes a walk to a certain hill where there was a public school. I don't know how far the hill was from the house, but well, he did take the walk and gets there. He takes a turn round and round, walks round and round the school block. And the whole time he is saying, there must be a way out of this, and I am not getting out of here until I've found it. I must find out what the solution to this problem is tonight. So he says he did not even take count. He didn't notice how many times he went around that block and how many times he said to himself, there is a way out of this and I have to find it out before the end of the night. So he walked round and round the building until instantly he was held still. So he stood and he caught something, like the previous, that felt like an instruction, and I just want to read it for you. It comes in form of an idea, and this is how he receives it. This is your testing time. You have been reduced to poverty and humiliated in order that you might be forced to discover your other self. Remember the other self. Carnegie had talked to him about it. So now for him, when he received this, it was a sign that his release was close and that he was quickly going to break free from this sort of self-made prison, so that he has the opportunity to test the soundness of his own philosophy that he was preaching to people. So he's rooted to the ground and just staring, trying to make sense of what is happening. And another instruction, another idea, another message. And this is how he receives it. And he says it was not his thoughts. It was a source that was from within him. Listen, you have been telling other people how to master fear and how to surmount the difficulties which arise out of the emergencies of life. From now on, you can speak with authority because you are about to rise above your own difficulties with courage and purpose, resolute and unafraid. So he feels exalted in the spirit, and not knowing why, he stands at attention and salutes. He says, I don't know why I saluted, and I don't know who. I don't know who I was saluting, but I did. And then he gets another instruction, and actually a command. Tomorrow, get into your automobile and drive to Philadelphia, where you will receive aid in publishing your philosophy of achievement. Period. Now remember, he's poor. He doesn't have money. How is he going to drive to another city? Where is he going to sleep? While he was still getting those thoughts of, okay, now, how am I going to do it? Another thought. You are following orders now. Instead of asking questions, your other self will be in charge. Your other self will be in charge during this trip. Ask your brother-in-law for $50 and he will give it. So it makes the call, asks for the $50, and even when the brother-in-law offers more, he says, no, I need only 50. He did not dare say, this is what is going on, there's this other self thing, because he knew people would say he's insane. So he just said, oh, no, I need $50 only. So he goes, he obeys like a fool. He does not dare tell anyone this is what is going on, because he was very sure he would be declared stupid. So he gets the $50 and drives to Philadelphia. He gets there and, of course, needs to find accommodation. So his mind is telling him, you know what, he'll get modest accommodation, because you have even less than $50 now. So when he starts entertaining that feeling, the other self shows up and says, look, do not think about a modest hotel. I want you to find the most expensive and most excellent and exclusive service. So find the best hotel around town. And he does. So in the hotel, he's about to ask for a room, and the instruction comes, ask for a complete suit. So he does. He asks for a suit. He does not have money. At this point, I think he has about $40 or maybe slightly below. But the instruction comes, listen, two entities operate in a human being. One responds to and is influenced by fear. The other responds to and is influenced by faith. Until a few days ago, you were under the influence of the fear entity. Now, you must learn to obey the faith entity. And if that is going to happen, you must not entertain any thoughts of limitation. I want you to ask for a suit. Do not give any thought to how much it is going to cost. Behave as though you have all the money that you need in your pocket. So he picks up the courage and obeys. And then the entity again the other self warns and says, now, the faith entity is in charge. Take note of this. You must control your thoughts and make sure that the doors to your mind are tightly closed against all negative thought, because that is how you let yourself be ruined, almost ruined by the fear entity. So close all doubt out, close all fear out, close all negative thoughts out. From now on, the faith entity, who is the other self, is going to be in charge of your stay here in Philadelphia. And you are going to publish this philosophy. Now, quickly, because we're going to end here, we'll continue when we continue. From this part of Napoleon Hill's story, these are the quick lessons that I was able to pick out. 1, the force behind success or failure is the other self. The other self is the faith entity. The faith entity is your spirit. Your spirit is much higher than the ordinary you. Number 2, we are closest to success in failure. You know the saying, every dark cloud has a silver lining? Every misfortune carries a seed of fortune. Failure is rich with lessons. You can only find real happiness by helping others find it. Unless we let our other self take charge, we will be constantly plagued by fear, indecision, and stagnation. Do not wait to be successful to behave successful. Entertain no idea of limitation, and you will live in abundance. You can stay controlled by the other self if you tightly close the doors of your mind to all negative thought. That is the first part of the book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I will come next to share the second part. We are going to see when he gets to Philadelphia, the promise that the other self gave of just go. You will find help. Someone will help you publish. He does not know anyone. He doesn't have any contacts. He's just in Philadelphia in an expensive hotel and has no clue how he's going to work around all those things. So that's the part we are going to see next. We are going to love it. Thank you. Have a lovely day, evening, morning.